Well, he got after Indian people. He's called an Indian fighter. Oh, he like jumped on them without warning, shoot him down. And he's always getting after him. Little bunch of Cheyennes over here, he'd bring all his soldiers over there. So one day he want to make peace with the Cheyenne people. I'll fight you no more, he said. I'll shake hands, that's me. I'll even smoke peace pipe with you. So he got a lot of men to smoke, chiefs, the leaders of the Cheyenne, medicine men, good men, fix pipe, and they smoke. I'll fight you no more, he said. He said, you've been telling us this time we'll make you a sign. And they took that pipe, ashes, and dirt and mixed it with it and put it on his military boots. And they asked why. And he said, they told him that you promised not to fight us anymore. And if you do, you're going to go back to ashes and dust. We warn you. So that's what he got on Little Bighorn.
Custer? Well, I think he was a good man.
He was in hopes that when he did this last massacre here that he might be able to run for president. Thank goodness he didn't get that far, or else we'd have been all killed off.
Custer was rough and tough, and he was a man.
I think he was a very crazy man, foolish man.
He was a military man. Heck, he was the head of the cavalry. The Civil War, he was second to none. He was the best.
As far as I can see, I think Custer was a psychopathic killer. He not only killed old men, women, and children. He wasn't satisfied with that. He even killed the dogs and every other living thing in the Indian villages. Wouldn't you say that's a little on the insane side?
From what I know of Custer, he was a unique individual. One that probably was given to eccentricities.
It appears he was a very narcissistic person with very poor judgment.
I have a spur that my grandfather was in a battle, wooden length. He's 18 years old when he fought. He took 2 scalps, one here and one. And he took a gun and spurs and money and Custer staked the horses out. I got those. We got the gun at them at that battlefield. See, they watched Custer way back over there. Ever since he smoked that peace pipe, the scouts, Indian scouts, always watch him. Sioux, they know where he's at. Indians just look this way. Custer had binoculars and he can't see them. But the Indians just look this way and he see him over there, acting funny, something, drilling his men in this way. Maybe he's trailing us again. So they kept watch on him and he come up Rosebud. And the Cheyennes and Sioux camp at Busby, just 40 miles from the battlefield. So they camp there and decide that that man is chasing us. He's looking for something, probably looking for us. So we better get fixed up. And they followed him clear to there. And they said, we'll go to Little Bighorn, and that's where we'll stand our ground. We fight back once, just once, that one. We lost all the rest of the wars and everything, but that one we fought back.
In 1876, Washington directed the Army to round up the Sioux and Cheyenne tribes and bring them onto reservations. The 7th Cavalry, led by General George Armstrong Custer, joined this expedition. Custer rose to fame as the youngest general of the Civil War. He attempted to further his political ambitions through his success as an Indian fighter. On June 25, 1876, his regiment of 650 men encountered about 5,000 Sioux and Cheyenne Indians under Chief Crazy Horse. Custer attacked with his regiment split into 3 columns. At the Little Bighorn River, the Indians wiped out Custer's entire column of 225 men. The reason for the defeat is still a controversial subject. Was it Custer's megalomania, his misjudgment, or was it cowardice on the part of the commander of one of the other columns? Military historians rate the battle as the greatest single defeat of the American Army. But this one victory could not prevent the final defeat of the Sioux and Cheyenne. They were forced onto reservations under very unfavorable conditions. The Crow Indians, who scouted for Custer, were given a better reservation. What is the situation of the Indian today? And what attitude does the white American have towards him?
For the lies that were spoken, for the blood we have spilled, for the treaties that were broken, for the leaders you have still. Custer died for your sins. Custer died for your sins. A new day must begin. Custer died for your sins.
It appears he was a very narcissistic person with very poor judgment. Fact is, clinically, I had kind of a feeling he was paranoid schizophrenic with delusions of grandeur.
In my experience in the military, I find that many of our fine generals, people who are very successful in the military, are strong personalities and somewhat unique. Therefore, I can't say that Custer was wrong in his personality or that he was not capable. On the contrary, I think he probably was a great general.
He believed that 20 white men could kill 1,000 Indians any day that they tried. You know, he really was kind of unrealistic. It amazes me that someone so stupid went so far.
As far as I can see, I think Custer was a psychopathic killer.
Well, I think all wars are horrible, and those of us who have fought in them certainly know what they're like and what they cause people to do. People under stress do strange things. I don't think that Custer's group or even the Indians were any more brutal than they are today. And whenever you get a group of people fighting to kill one another, you're going to have brutality. And people under stress do strange things. And we see this happening in Vietnam today.
General Sheridan himself, who was the military commander of the West after the Civil War, said that out of small nits come big lice. So go ahead and kill children, babies. This is all right. Kill them. This was the American Army policy.
I doubt very much that very many people in a sane frame of mind would harm a child.
It's in us all, on occasion, to be pretty brutal, and none of us can point at anyone else and say, you're worse than we are. We've got it. It's been in us. It's a shameful thing. Custer said that they should hang all Indian boys over 12 years old of age, and they did, or killed them, and killed them in many brutal ways.
Of course, the great mistake right from the start was that those people who were given the jobs of administering the reservations and tending to Indian affairs were the worst political hacks that this country probably knew. In many cases, indeed, they were villains and crooks and outright thieves. And they were political appointees. They were out here 1,000 or 2,000 miles away from headquarters where they could do as they pleased, and usually they did it. They robbed the Indian at every turn. Well, we certainly should have corrected that right from the beginning.
We consider these people to be savages, and even worse, heathens, meaning that they're not even part of the mystical body. They're outside the fold, and so if you're hurting them, you're not really hurting anybody important. And so this was the savagery and the enslavement that we saw go on, and which ended up in them getting little chunks of land to live on, and sort of the equivalent of food stamps, for a couple of centuries.
The Indians they had a 10-mile strip out here that they reserved when they took the country away from them. And they loved it just better than they would heaven, but the white people just moved in and took it away from them. There ain't nothing about the Indian that wasn't good. The thing about the Indian was that the white man made him what he was.
In too many instances, a whole tribe was placed on land which was much too small for him, and he was expected overnight to start tilling that intensively, as we whites do. But he was not, as I say, an intensive agriculturalist. He was more of a nomad.
It's sort of like if if I were to take my oldest son and build a little room for him out on the yard and saying, you know, I recognize that you get hungry and you get cold, but I'm going to leave a little food on the doorstep, but don't ever come into my house. You know, I don't want to be seen with you. I want you out of my life.
It must be good from east and south, west and north. They use that as you start to, when you're born, your sun coming up, and that's the way you live as it goes down. Over here in north, in little cold, rain and snow. Snow's on you and it gets on your hair. You're getting older. That north is the and they think the Creator's the center. Spirit, He's right around us close. We worship early in the morning. We face east. We give thanks for that new day. And then noontime, bright daylight, He worship too. And then when the sun goes down, that different red and yellow lights and early in the morning and evening. He likes that. He gives thanks for those. And sometime at night, midnight maybe, dark outside, it's black. He said, "Hey, get out there and worship too." That black is different color. Our colors are red and a black.
Spread the word of your religion, convert the whole world if you can. Kill and slaughter those who oppose you. It's worth it if you save one man. Take the land to build your churches. I send to tax the house of God. Take the child while he is supple. Spoil the mind and spare the rod.
But so many times white people are hostile because of the word Indian. It means knife, scalp, savage, pagan, something of that nature. Well, that was absolutely out of the picture with us. They were our people. We shared life together. We lived together.
Far before the white missionaries ever arrived, Indian people of all people had the most profoundly moving and penetrating concept of a supreme power that lay behind the forces of the universe, a supreme power that ordered the relationships of men to each other and men to creation as a whole.
Like an ever-circling vulture, you descend upon your prey. Then you pick the souls to pieces, and you watch them as they decay. For religion is big business, as your bank accounts will show. And Christ died to save all mankind, but that was long ago.
And the missionaries were trying to make white people out of them. They didn't understand that they had a great rich culture of their own, that they had a great religious background.
Well, of course, we tried to build on the background of that religious attitude rather than throw it out entirely, as some missionaries have and I know of. But at the same time, we have tried to build on the basis of their religious concepts and transpose them over into a Christian concept so that they would come to believe in a God as represented by Christian faith.
To a certain extent, they may have helped us, but I think in a way they divided us because each tribe had its own religion, had its own particular way of belief.
They kept you hungry so you learn the prayers, you know. And if you went to communion, you got a cup of hot chocolate.
We knew there was a supreme being before the white man ever came to us, and we practice our religion. We practice it every day. And I've felt that the white man only practices his religion one time a week, and that's on the Sunday morning when he puts his foot in the church. He is a Christian. The minute he steps out, that's it.
It seemed like that when a missionary came, he told the Indian people that there was hell and there was devil, and they were burning at this hell. See, we didn't know this. Where is it? And if you go, keep on your Indian worship ways, your dancing, your Indian ceremony, you're going to go to hell, he said. So that when he gets scared, and the devil's going to be around. He's making you dance. He's making you do this. So we never heard of that devil. Where did he come from? He said. He didn't know about him. And some then people, they went to these churches. To hear about this preaching. They preached them. And some they still go to the other churches. They begin to realize that some of them got paid to be baptized. Children got $3 and older men got $6. We baptize you. And this lately, well, not lately, after a while they begin to dance with us, these missionaries. They sponsor these powwows. They must want to go to hell with us.
Missionaries, missionaries, go and leave us all alone. Take your white God to your white man, we've a God of our own. Missionaries, missionaries, go and leave us all alone. Save the souls of all your white men, we've a God of our own. We've a God of our own.
In the middle, black bull, 2660, middle black bull. Okay, here's John Edwards. John Edwards, the red line. God damn it, you got to hear what is real.
The man that has a little bit of a phony streak about him will never make it in rodeo. Yeah. And the guy that pretends he's tough, tough doesn't mean whipping the town tough. Tough means being able to stand up and take it and get up again when you're down.
The people ain't the same. You take the old-time Westerner, and I left this country, I come here in 1895, and I left this country in 1906 and rode from here to Lewistown and never went through a barbed wire fence or a gate. That's what the old West was like. She was open, every place.
Go on with him, Mark. On the top of the ice.
Get your fucking fingers out of my eye.
We are warm with you. Hey.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the reason these people come out to rodeo, they're kind of putting themselves back in the place that they'd like to really be. You know, I mean, the Old West, they think a lot about, and they think a lot about these cowboys, the fellas that a man pays his entry fees and he takes his hard knocks just as well as anybody, you know that.
Oh, bad news, he broke the barrier.
This is nothing like the West. This is just a comedy show, kind of a carnival. The Old West had nothing to do with it.
Hey, hey. This boy is leading for the national championship, and it looked like he pulled his arm real bad there.
We can trace it back to 100,000 years ago, that we were here in North America. We own all of it.
Every major business in this whole reservation is white-owned and percentage-wise, you know, employ a larger percentage of whites.
In the old days, money didn't mean anything to the Indian, not one blessed thing, because he had everything he wanted from Mother Earth.
And they come there and try to take my picture. And I don't really care for that because they go home and then they can be the head of their social circle because they have a picture of a real Indian from Montana.
I think this Custer reenactment is significant in the fact that we are trying to present the thing as it was according to the Indians, not according to the white historians.
For the past 8 years, the Battle of Little Bighorn has been reenacted on a site near the original battlefield, which today is a national monument. The Sioux and Cheyenne, who won the battle, take no part in this reenactment. It is staged by the Crow tribe, who fought alongside Custer, together with white farmers in the area.
Antagonist or protagonist. This man who first bore the name Slow would now rise to lead the Sioux Nation.
Is this reenactment just a commercial enterprise, or does it lead to a deeper understanding between the races?
At his 17, he was to show that he was capable of authority. He taught, and his wisdom gave people confidence. What was it in the destiny that would make him a man the West would...
I think it's a farce. I think it's just a money-making propaganda outfit.
And the people of the Crow tribe are sometimes victims of what the Crow Tribal Council decides. It has become a very commercial thing, like Indian Disneyland.
Our national anthem.
White man has been here for 400 years, and he's been trying to kill us. He tried to disease us and
make us sick, killed us that way, and they burned us out. And
we brought smallpox victim clothing and presented to the Indians.
They're still carrying it on in different ways, genocide against us, cultural genocide now. They're trying to assimilate us.
I think historically we have two main trends in Indian policy, one of which was the recognition of Indian people as separate sovereign peoples with a right to maintain their own destiny. And then the other main theme, which really is the idea of Indian people being educated and trained and helped in every way to become exactly like the rest of the American community.
The policy was to suppress the Indians in their beliefs, in their traditions, in their culture. And we lost a lot of our culture from that suppression. We lost part of the ceremonies that were practiced by my people.
And then, of course, the Bureau of Indian Affairs to this day hasn't quite made up its mind what its policy should be. First, put the Indian on the reservation and lock him up and keep him there. Then, about 40 years ago, there was a new concept. Well, let's get him off the reservation and sort of push him into the mainstream of American life and forget all about his culture and his background. Now we are coming back to something new. Hopefully, I think this is a better policy, a realization that we must save this cultural background of the Indian and still get him more active in our national life.
It doesn't mean they must forsake their own, because you can be loyal to two cultures, two societies, so to speak.
We're saying, in effect, that this is up to the Indian people themselves to determine what their goals will be and how they want to move ahead.
Yeah, peoples and that are starving in ghettos and stuff, and yet they go on building super jet ports. And they have people on the reservations that are starving, and they send in money overseas, foreign aid. I can't understand that.
I see the contemporary Indian as the individuals who are going to college, getting an academic education, realizing the need to do so to be able to compete and also to be able to survive.
It's hard to say what they need most because it's all very closely linked. Yeah, because education, but they won't really have education until there's some kind of employment for them to do something with it. Like the few people around here that get college degrees, well, if they want to use it, they have to go away somewhere.
We band together on getting more aid to our reservations because some of our people are living with the barest necessities of life, maybe 10 people to a room, very little food, maybe one meal a day.
A lot of kids commit suicide because the right awareness doesn't come to their life in time. And all of a sudden they, in disillusionment, commit suicide on the reservations. But
the fact that they do have the highest suicide rate means that they're very angry people, by being mistreated.
Well, the stereotype picture of the drunken Indian, I think, was more or less a hang-up on the part of the white man than it really was the Indian.
I find that alcoholics have the greatest amount of pain inside here. I mean, they really ache, and the aching is in the form of tension. And the alcohol then just becomes a medicine, an anesthesia, to give them some relief for a little while.
It's estimated by experts as far as the Indian population of the United States, that alcohol is the #1 problem on every reservation in the United States.
A lot of white people seem to have a lot of animosity towards the Indians because they say the Indians sit back on their fat asses all the time and get government checks. The government owes us that money for land.
It's too complicated a problem for anyone to study it for a month or 6 weeks or even for years and to have a real answer.
The problem that we have is having the non-Indian look at us through the values of their culture, not through our culture.
And the anthros still keep coming like death and taxes to our land, to study their feathered freaks with funded money in their hand. Like a Sunday at the zoo, the cameras click away, taking notes and tape recordings of all the animals that play. And the anthros bring their friends to see the circus, watch the show. And when their pens run dry, they pack up the things and away they go. But there's nothing left to study, there's nothing left to see. Still the anthros keep on searching for the clue and for the key. Here come the anthros, better hide your past away. Here come the anthros on another holiday.
Now we have some instant Indian experts that know all about it, but they don't know. They misinform you, misinform people, misinform the public. Or
then back they go to write their books and tell the world there's more. But there's nothing left to write, it's all been done before. And not a cent of funded money that the anthros get to spend is ever given to their disappearing feathered friend. Here come the anthros, better hide your past away. Here come the anthros on another holiday.
They're not going to do away with us like that. We're here. Like our history says and our legends say, the Indian people have always been here, and they'll be here when everybody else is gone. I'm proud of that.
Let me ask you a question. What has the white man given the Indian that's really good? I don't see too much myself. We have lost so much, and we're trying to come back as an Indian, and as I traveling like I do, and seeing some of these Indians trying to make a comeback, it's the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life.
If you take a culture that is predicated on a Darwinian assumption of the survival of the fittest, then the free enterprise system makes sense. You know, there's whoever's going to be the best is going to win and be the most successful. But then you always have the losers. If you were to assume that man is a child of God and God is a common father, then the Indian culture makes more sense.
America made it so that I was ashamed of being Indian, looking Indian.
When our baby was sick, I don't know how she heard about, but this old Indian woman come in with braids on and heard she was sick, and she took this baby and she unwrapped it and put the diapers in the oven, the coal oven, and she had some kind of oil, and she put it everywhere you breathe, here and on the spine, the bottom of the foot, and that baby went right to, after she got her wrapped up with warm blankets, Baby went right to sleep. Well, I hadn't slept for I don't know how many hours. And then there was another old Indian woman used to come in and make us bacon powder biscuits. Best biscuits you ever ate. And if my mother could have seen it, she'd think we wasn't getting scalped.
I think prejudice is fear. If I wouldn't know you, for instance, or if I were with a person I wouldn't know, and I was afraid to disclose myself to him, I would use part of my ego to put him down, which is, I think, purely defensive.
Do I feel there's any prejudice? I know there's prejudice. I've lived it all my life. I've been on the wrong end of the stick all my life.
Well, red power to me means a lot of things, I guess, but the main thing that I think it means self-determination. Being able to decide for ourselves just what our destiny is going to be, what is going to become of our Indian people. It also means pride, pride in a lot of things, pride in our culture and our heritage, things that we've inherited from our ancestors. They're very proud people.
America, you invite the red man to sit at your table and be your guest, to justify the guilt that you are feeling. Now you tell us that you like us the best, and the black man is waiting on the sideline for the chance to get into your game, to show you that he's just as good as you are, prove to you that he can be the same, and the triangle that you have created keeps you by yourself, keeps you paranoid for the red, white, and blue that you keep flying, for the red, white, and black that you avoid, 'cause the red man was killed to free the frontier, while the black man was killed for sport and nothing more. And you wonder why the red man won't be like you. You should wonder why the black man wants to be, 'cause you came to this land because you wanted freedom, but that you have forgotten now that you are free.
I know now the FBI has been on home checking on me. They're getting together a file on me, and I don't know why. I must be a dangerous, subversive type, and I've never preached or advocated violence or overthrow of this government. This is my country, it's my government. I just don't like the way it's being run now, and I realize it's going to take a long time to change it, but it's going to have to happen because there are too many people just becoming too dissatisfied the way things are.
I doubt that we're going to have red power as we know black power in this country today.
It may be all right to arouse the interest of the Indian, but to me, it's going at it the wrong way to get what you want.
More likely what is to happen is that he is going to refine his leadership, and indeed we see this process at work now, with more Indians in our universities and colleges. These young people will then be coming out of the university, and I think will be able to speak for the tribes and for the Indian people and speak with more authority, and can indeed make the majority or the white man listen.
The way it's all coming about is that I believe white man is beginning to recognize that the inhabitants who have been here for 40,000 years have a lot to teach their culture who've only been here for 150.
It is just so blatantly obvious that here is a minority in this country which is in despair, and surely we people of the United States can do better than this. We have to.
I read all these books about Uncle Sam and about freedom, how we were the defenders of democracy. I saw how my people were being treated by the white people there, and how they were being thrown in jail, how they were being cheated, stole from, lied to, and looked down upon as second-class citizens. And I thought to myself, my God, you mean I went over there and fought for that for that white guy over there so he could steal from my grandpa, so that white cop could throw my grandparents in jail. You're free and you've got the right to do anything you want in this country, as long as you're white and over 21 and you've got a lot of money. Money is the key word in this society now, and I've seen it and I looked at it and I reject it. I don't want it, because I believe in something even more better than that. I believe in nature. I believe in the Mother Earth and our Father, the Sun, and I believe in everybody's right to live. Everybody has a mind. Everybody is a human being. Everybody has a spirit.
I would say that the treatment of the Indians, not by the U.S. government alone, but by the white man since he came to this continent, has been devastating and execrable. It is one of the saddest chapters in our history because these people who originally owned this area, the first Americans really, have been treated badly. Treaties have been broken. They have been herded on reservations. They have been the recipients of paternalism to a very great degree. But in spite of all this, they are still in existence. They have increased in numbers. There is a rebirth of their culture and their traditions. And I think there is a time, too, to recompense these first Americans for the many injuries which they suffered in this country which was originally theirs. What we should have done was not to put them on reservations, but to respect the treaty rights which these Indians made with the great white father in Washington.
Now, President Nixon finally reached the point of saying that the time had come when the Indians should be given the right to manage and control their own affairs. And he said it very clearly. He at the same time said that they would have self-determination, but without what is known here as termination. But about that time, too many toes began to be stepped on, and at the same time, a number of forces came together that suddenly began to undermine within the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Department of the Interior all of what President Nixon had been promising the Indians. By the first third of this year, the Indians felt that a great betrayal was in the works.
Yeah, I think today the tribes as a whole and most individuals do not want to see the end of this special relationship that they have with the government, which includes some government involvement in the handling of resources, the handling of their funds, and so forth.
I think these people mean well, but they're also victims of their own appointments, just like President Nixon. But, you know, Hitler didn't play any foolish games, but, you know, Hitler is part of that mentality that came over from Europe. The same mentality exists here in America.
The American people here, it's progress at any cost. You know, regardless of the consequences, you got to progress forward. You got to develop. If there's any land there, you have to develop it. You have to turn your beautiful landscape into cities. You have to replace it with skyscrapers, and you have to pollute the streams, and you have to pollute the air, fill it with foul, evil-smelling stuff, smog, and I can't see how anybody would want to live here.
I think perhaps something is going to come back to our people that has been lost through education and different fields. The missionaries and everyone has brainwashed us. Everything that we have done has been wrong. And so I think maybe something is coming again to us that we need desperately.
We are discovering at long last that the American Indian indeed had a rather good culture here. This was not a barbarian. This was not a, quote, heathen, unquote. He wasn't a savage. He had quite an admirable civilization. So the problem now is, how do we salvage and save as much of that civilization as possible and still keep the American Indian, or place the American Indian, in the mainstream of American life? This is a big order. It's not going to be easy to do these two things simultaneously, but it simply has to be done.
Well, I would say that the prime need that I know would be to be recognized as a human being.
The Indian will be the man that will save the world. He is known as the Lamanite.
See, one of these days the Indians are going to wake up and they're going to realize that they're not so dumb after all. And I can't wait for that day because it's going to be one hell of a day.
Yeah, he'll be here when we're all gone. Yeah, he's one of God's chosen people. We could learn everything. We could learn to be friendly and kind and not cheat and steal and lie, and the Indian never done that. Yeah, this was the Indians' country.
Of the 600,000 Indians in America today, 400,000 live on reservations. The average life expectancy of Indians is 1/3 lower than the national average. Infant mortality is 3 times higher than the national average. The TB rate is 8 times higher. About 1/3 of all Navajo Indians are illiterate. The average Indian family earns 40% less than the average black family. Nearly 40% of all Indians are unemployed. The suicide rate of Indian teenagers is 100 times that of whites. 50,000 Indian families live without running water, electricity, or adequate sanitary facilities. In 1 year, $10 million was given to non-Indians to study Indians. Not one single dollar went to an Indian scholar or researcher to present the point of view of the Indian.
For the truth that you pollute, for the life that you have caused, for the good you prostitute, and for all that we have lost. Custer died for your sins. Custer died for your sins. Now a new day must begin. Custer died for your sins. Custer died for your sins. Custer died for your sins. Now a new day must begin. Custer died